My name is Harsha. I am a 17-year-old social entrepreneur, founder of the startup startmyname.com, singer-songwriter, musician, website and app developer, and a founding member of the nationwide youth organization called Ascendance. But most importantly, I am a 17-year-old student. Ascendance is a youth movement that helps everyday students discover what it is they love doing, how they can learn about themselves and the world around them, and create their own sustainable careers for themselves while still being in school. It was founded by 4 teenagers who were then aged 13 to 19 years old, and that today works with over 2,000 students across the country. The Ministry of Education in schools around Selangor actively works with hundreds of students to discover what they love, and have developed 6 fully fledged social startups, some which are run as youngsters as young as 8 years old. Out of these startups, one of them is fully commercialized, 2 which we're in talks with venture capitalists with, and 3 which are almost at that level. We also have 10s and 20s of impact projects that are run by everyday students and teenagers. In 2019, we've even received the honor of receiving the Diana Award, an award given out in memory of the late Princess Diana of Wales to recognize humanitarian and social work done by youth across the world. Thank you. But the question is, how did 4 youngsters start all of this? 4 youngsters who were then aged 13 to 19, still in school. How did they start this? And that's our story. How many of you here have ever felt like this? Like your voice isn't heard. Like nobody cares about your opinion. Raise up your hand if you've ever felt like it. Like what you have to say doesn't matter. Because that's how I used to feel. When I was 11, I was the most shy, quiet, disengaged kid you would ever meet. In fact, many people actually thought that I was mute. But all that changed for me one day when my family brought me to a talk show that was held by a social business incubator platform called ET Ideas. Now here's the thing. I had no idea what a social business incubator platform is. I didn't know what those words meant together or apart. But for the first time, I was thrown into a completely different environment of people. Here were people who were CEOs of companies, who owned million-dollar businesses, who were industry pioneers, who many were also youngsters who were starting out as entrepreneurs as well. And then there was me, who was an 11-year-old student, a little bit different from my normal crowd of friends, right? But all of them there shared one idea, that the young must lead, that the voice of the young must be heard. Which sounds really nice and everything, but as an 11-year-old, when for the first time someone tells you your opinion matters, you're like, oh man, what do I say now? So what I used to do is, every week, I would just go there and spend time with them during their talk show, hear their stories, their experiences, learn from them the things that I never thought I would learn about ever. Because here were people who worked with industries out there, companies. And I learned things like how one's subconscious mind works. How many times you're not actually responding to situations, you're just reacting based on your own programming. How powerful your thoughts really are in manifesting the reality around you. How your habits work. How many times our own thoughts, words, actions set us up to fail before we even know about it. And how you can correct it. So I was able to learn a lot about myself. The things that people learn after going through things and experiencing life. And with this knowledge and information, obviously I went on to end world hunger and save the world. No, I didn't do any of that. What I did was, I just used it in my life right then as an 11-year-old student. I used it to do a little bit better in school. From an average student to do a bit better. I used it to find out what are the things that I like doing. How can I set and achieve the goals I wanted? Like one of the first few goals I had is, I wanted to get a scholarship to go to an international school because I wanted to learn about the cultures around the world, how people were. But when you're 11, nobody really knows that, can you get scholarships as a kid? And many people say if you do, you need connections or you need an inside man. But I didn't have any. All I had was the things that they taught me. So I put it into practice. I started setting my goal, working towards it, taking the right actions. Every day I'd come home, research about it, look at it. And slowly, I started seeing other opportunities on how to achieve this goal. In the end, I started becoming a top scorer in my school. I became a state netball player. I even won an award by Rock School for highest bass guitar scores in my grade in Malaysia. And in that 6 months, I eventually did achieve my big goal of getting that scholarship to an international school that was worth 150,000 ringgit. And what that showed me was, this works. That you can really set your mind on a goal, no matter what it is, and achieve it, regardless of whether you think it exists or not. And it wasn't just me, there were many other youngsters out there in EP Ideas. Like, for example, today, our Chief Operations Officer, Hira, she is 20 years old. She is an international singer-songwriter, which means she performs locally, she's performed internationally, she has her songs out on Spotify, YouTube, she's won awards, come out in the papers. But when she first started out 6 years ago, she was just a kid who liked singing. Many people like singing, right? Like our Chief Content Officer, Sanit. Today, he's a 19-year-old filmmaker. He works on documentaries and video projects for large corporations. His work has won and been nominated for awards like the Malaysian Digital Film Awards. But 6 years ago, he was just a kid who liked movies. Like our Chief Executive Officer, Madhura, who at 23 years old is a junior partner in an accounting company that helps small and medium businesses be sustainable and contribute back to the economy. But 6 years ago, she was just any other lost teenager. Like even me. Today I have my own startup, startmyname.com. I'm Ascendance's Chief Marketing Officer. But when I first started out, I was the most unremarkable kid you would meet. I was just quiet, disengaged, didn't want to talk to anyone, didn't want to do anything outside of the normal stuff. So what changed? What changed was, for the first time, when I felt like maybe I should put my opinion out there, I should try things out. I went to these people in this business incubator and I said, okay, I want to try something out. And they said, okay, what do you want to try out? And I said, I have no idea. And they said, what do you like doing? So the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to be a fashion designer. So they said, all right, go follow the CEO of a fashion company around. And I did. I followed her when she went to meet her clients, when she went for her events, when she had a boutique opening and things like that. And I realized something very important, that I cannot be a fashion designer, and that it was not the thing for me. But then I saw, okay, what was the next thing I could try out? What was the next thing? And I just kept trying out and working in different places until I discovered what I liked. Like one of the companies I worked with was a company that did marketing. Doesn't really seem like really fun stuff. But I started out there just doing things like writing emails, calling their clients and talking to them, setting appointments, simple stuff. But eventually I started getting ideas. I said, hey, you guys do marketing. What about branding for other companies to help them appeal nicer to the youth? Because for me, I was 14 years old at that point of time, and there were some companies which I just couldn't connect to. I didn't really like them. So I said, let's help these companies seem more appealing to youngsters. And that marketing company I was working with, they were like, all right, let's try this out. Go try it out, go work on it and see. So I did proposals, I did cold calls, I started meeting clients. And eventually that idea got rolling, and I helped around eventually closing deals that were worth up to 50,000 ringgit. All from the work I was doing, just while I was still in school. And as I started getting better at this branding thing, seeing how we can help companies shape the way people look at them, one day, a completely different but very weird problem happened to this company. The CEO of this company was going to be interviewed on a very prominent news channel. Good thing, right? But the thing was, their website hadn't been updated in like forever. Like really, it looked terrible. And since we only had a day's notice, the person who was normally in charge of building the website wasn't available, and they needed someone else for the job, and everyone already had work to do, except for me, who at that point of time was a student who had to go to school from the time of 8:30 to 5 p.m. But I said, you know what? I'll try this out. I'll go and I'll make this website and everything. I'll do all of it, because I have 1 hour between 7:30 and 8:30 on the bus ride to school. And it's not like I know anything about websites. I had no idea what it is. I don't even take ICT in school. But for me, in that 1 hour, using my phone hotspot, my laptop, and Googling, how does one make a website? I eventually learned how to redesign the website and launch it by the end of the day in time for the next day interview. So then what happened was, I started getting small favors from people asking them to revamp their website when they needed it urgently. And I started working with one IT company to help them do these small website and app development jobs when they needed the help. So just 1 or 2 here and there. And I realized that it was something that I really liked. It was something that for me was fun, that tested my creativity. But at the same time, I was still doing this branding thing. I was still working on doing branding for companies and things like that. Until one day, someone came and told me, so you're doing this branding thing, and you have this website thing as well. Have you ever thought of just combining both of them in one? And I was like, I never really thought of that. But it is a good idea. So then I came up with this idea to do personalized branding for everyday people, so that everyday people could have their own brand, their own website, so that people could see them the way that they wanted to be portrayed, so that the world can see you through the eyes of yourself. So I started my own startup only then, after many years of working on different things, many websites and many companies later. And I started a startup called startmyname.com that does that helps everyday people have their own brand and website. And from that, I realized that many times when we think of creating our own careers, we think that we have to come up with a revolutionary idea, or that we have to discover hidden talent that we have to share with the world. But many times that's not always the case. For me, it was just spending time in an environment of people that I wanted to be like. Hanging out with people who were successful in life, but were still giving back to society, the community, who were still focused on building the young. So me and the other youngsters in Ascendance, who all were very fortunate to have our own careers at a young age, formed Ascendance with the idea that we would bring the same opportunity to every single youngster out there, so that every single youngster would be able to do what it is they love doing, learn about themselves, and at the same time get exposure in the world out there, learn how it's like that in the actual industries, so that they can do what they love and be able to find the gaps in the industries that their skills match. Many of us are worried. We don't know how the future looks like. We don't know how jobs 10 years from now will be. But if you build yourself as a person, if you gain the right skills, if you gain the right characters to adapt to things, then you'll be ready for anything. And the only way to build yourself is to put yourself through the pressure to learn things out there, because your character is shaped through experience, not anything else. So today, Ascendance, what we do is we work with everyday youngsters just by pausing, rewinding, and looking back at our own journey. How can we replicate that for more youngsters? So we work with students over the course of 1, 2 years, long periods of time, to number one, teach them the things we learned about in the beginning. How to understand yourself, how your subconscious works. And then showing them how life is in different industries. Industries from media, from comedy, from inventing to programming, animation. Go and try it out yourself. Work on projects. Come back with ideas, struggles. May find that experience. And once you get that, because there'll be some industries which are like, I never want to do this again. But there'll be some things you find that I quite like this. And once you find that, developing your own projects, your own businesses, your own ideas into a reality. Like, for example, some of the students we worked with, we've seen them, they're very talented artists. But they're also very shy. So when they started understanding why they're shy, how their programming works that prevents them from speaking out, when they go and they test it out in different projects, be put into positions where they need to practice communication, leadership. And eventually, they started their own social project called Creative Captains, where everyday youngsters can submit their artworks, their photography, and things like that, and they can showcase it to the world so that authors, companies can look into it and hire these young artists. And it's a platform that was run by youngsters aged 12 to 17 years old. Isn't that amazing? And just like that, we have youngsters in all kinds of fields, from things like media to animation to even interviewing. So, bottom line, can youngsters be successful? Around the world, we've already seen this happen. We have people like, at 17 years old, Kelvin Doe from Sierra Leone, who made a radio generator from scrap metal around his village, and later went on to inspire kids not only in Africa but around the world. We have students like McKinley Butson, who at 17 years old in Australia made this thing called smart armor that protects other parts of the body from radiation during cancer treatment. People like Michael Saman, at 13 years old, was a student who learned how to do computer programming from Google and created the app 4Snaps with 4 pictures and 1 word. But we also have people in Malaysia who do this. Like in the 1980s, Ilango Tiago, who when people did not know what computers were, started writing computer softwares at age 12, and later went on to write softwares that would revolutionize the safety and health industry in Malaysia, impacting hundreds and thousands of lives. And today, he is the one who founded ET Ideas, the platform we're from, and helped everyday youngsters realize that they can do the same. He was one guy that impacted thousands of lives. Can you imagine if every single one of us here today was able to do that? If we had an entire generation who could do the same, world problems would crumble at our feet. So in his words, just to end it off, the wiser and more experienced generation can guide, but the young must lead. It's your future, so claim it. Thank you.